Well, good afternoon, students. Hey, it's Tim, and this is for actually several of my courses this semester. It's spring of 2022, but this video will carry forward for a couple of years, I'm sure. I happened to have somebody write me this week and ask me um, what are good skills for a programmer to have. So I answered the student back, and then I sent out several emails with some follow-up things. So this is just one of those things. I did go out and I looked to see if there were any really interesting articles, and I found a great one, and I sent my courses this particular website a link to it. But I wanted to talk about these things. And I added to my email the most important thing that you can learn is critical thinking skills when you want to be a good programmer. The top 10 things are the languages that are recommended that you learn to use. And, in my particular courses, I have C programming, which is an intro to programming. I have C plus programming, or excuse me, C programming, advanced C programming, and kind of a programming thing, but scripting, Linux scripting. But these things are essential for all programmers. So I want to go over the last things that this particular author put in their blog. Communications, teamwork, patience, accountability, positivity, problem solving, and curiosity. I wanted to cover those real quick, and I throw all these into the more important category again, critical thinking. But communications. So when it comes to communicating, one of the things that I ask that you do is send me details of what your particular problem is. I had students this semester that wrote me and said, I'm having a problem installing my compiler. Unfortunately, if you want to be a programmer, you have to be positive, and you have to be motivated, and you have to be held accountable for your work. So if you're having problems installing an IDE, and you haven't taken the time to go look up how to install code blocks on Windows 10, all right, you're failing yourself. Your instructor isn't here to do that. There's plenty of videos on how to do that. Anything and everything that you do in programming is available on YouTube and available on Google. Learn to use it. It's part of communications. The other thing is just don't simply write somebody else and say, hey, I can't open a file. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to communicate. You have to think of the person that is asking you the question, and you have to think of what has already been done, because you don't want to duplicate work. So make sure that you're properly communicating. Screenshots, more details. Just say you can't do something doesn't work. Teamwork. If you haven't already figured it out, teamwork is essential in programming. There are very, very few situations where you will be working as a single person. If you are in a situation where you're working somewhere and you're on a team, and you have to go to your boss for every line of code, you will be a bad programmer. You have to learn to reach out to the resources that are available to you: YouTube, Google, other students, tutors. And then that's when you come to your boss. You have to look at me as an instructor as I'm kind of like a boss. So you give me a product, I post something on Canvas that says you need to do this, this, and this. So what you need to do is you need to go through all of your resources before you come to me and ask for help. I don't mind helping, but you have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to talk to tutors. You have to learn how to look things up on YouTube and Google. That's part of the process. Patience, right? I get it, been there, done that. And I am not a person of patience. I'll admit it. My patience you could put in Granny's thimble. Not a very patient person, but I've had to get over that in life and move on as a programmer. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make thousands of mistakes if you want to be a programmer. I've made thousands, hundreds of thousands of probably of mistakes. That's part of learning. You learn from your mistakes. Nobody sits down and writes perfect code the first day. It just doesn't happen. If somebody's told you that they did that, they're full of baloney. We'll leave it at that. Accountability. You're accountable for your work and for the work that you do. One of the things that a lot of you all do is you go to Rate My Professor, and it's a great tool for finding out something about a particular instructor or a particular class. But you're accountable for your actions in a class. I'm going to say it. I got a couple bad reviews on there. I can tell by the writing style of who the student was that did it. But most of you all have been through my classes. You know that sometimes there's a method to my madness. I'm a little bit hard on you when you ask me right out of the get-go for help. But eventually, I do help you. I want you to learn to use your resources like the tutors and Google and YouTube, because you're going to have Google and YouTube when you get to your real work environment. Again, your boss doesn't want you to come to him him or her every couple minutes asking how to do something. You're going to be expected to know how to do that, so you have to start learning these skills. That's why I put you through the process of reaching out to different people. As far as teamwork, I have no problem with you working with other students in your class. If there's a student that you can work with online or one-on-one that lives close to you, you meet at McDonald's, you meet at Starbucks, great thing, okay? Meet up and work together. You will actually learn more. The only thing I ask is that please do not just copy the code and send it to me, because that's not right. Make sure you understand the concepts, but I do encourage teamwork. Please, please, please use that. And again, be positive. You're going to learn it. You just have to, you have to do some work. Unfortunately, nowadays, especially after COVID, I found that students tend to get very, very lazy. I don't know if it's society as a whole or if it's the negative aspects of COVID and what it's done to society. I see it when I go shopping. I see that people aren't as engaged with their customers when you go to restaurants and when you go out different places. And then there's other people that are working very hard to try to get things done. So please be positive, and you're accountable for your actions, okay? Don't always blame everything on the instructor, or don't say that, this guy didn't teach me this. I've had students that have come into my class, my advanced C class, and they didn't know what an IDE was, and yet I know that every student that went through beginning C had to learn to install an IDE. That's the responsibility of the student. Make sure you know how to use a couple IDEs. I highly encourage Code Blocks. That's the one I like my students to use. Other professors really push Visual Studio, and some people use Eclipse. I don't care which one you use, but try to get accustomed and acclimated with at least a couple of them. Problem solving. Again, this goes back to troubleshooting. You're not going to write perfect code, especially as the programs get more complex and my requirements get more complex. Nobody's going to get it right out of the get-go. Break it down. Use baby steps. I had a couple students this week that were having problems with some if-then-else statements in C. This goes for scripting. We use them a lot, and we use if-then a lot in scripting. It's used in all programming languages. It's used for data analysis. It's used for artificial intelligence. It's going to be in every major program, so you got to learn how to do it. But what students will often do is, first of all, they don't use a tool. They don't use a design tool. That's a big mistake, okay? They don't think about what each statement does. They try to solve this whole big chunk of code. In none of my classes, and when you leave Valencia, none of you are going to be able to write code to put a space shuttle into space. That's not the objective. We're here to teach you basic concepts that you can move on and grow with at other institutions. So you're going to have to learn to solve problems on your own. Again, reach out to YouTube, reach out to tech blogs, reach out to Google. There are plenty of examples online of how to do this. And a major thing you can do is find a site where they answer people's questions, and go through and look at how different people asked questions, and then how the forum moderators or bloggers or whoever replied back in solving the problems. Learn to look at other people's code and analyze their code yourself, and you'll learn a lot more that way. And then the last and most important skill is that you got to have some curiosity. If you're not curious in how things work, and you're not curious in what doesn't work, what does work, your chances are you won't make a very good programmer. So just some tips that I think are great tips. I happened to find this particular website online today, and I thought they had some really interesting things. And another thing that I thought was pretty interesting here is they talk about a 12% increase between 2018 and 2028. I think the number's actually much higher than that. I think it's going to be around 30 or 35%. I know right now in the cybersecurity world, there's over 800,000 jobs just in the United States. So IT is a great place. Programming, there's lots of people that start out at 40, 50,000 a year, and they're making six figures. So, but you got to be accountable, and you got to be willing to do some work. Don't be lazy. If you're a lazy student, you're procrastinating, it'll never work for you. I wish you good luck as always. If you want to talk about this some more in detail, feel free to drop me a Canvas email, and we'll get together in Zoom someday. Thank you very much, and have a good day.